Hello, welcome back to Human Conversations. I'm here with
Welcome, everybody. It's
Fabulous.
me, Melanie.
It's me, Toby. I just realized those two things rhyme. I love a good rhyme. Okay, so today we're back with our next emotion, which we are going to be talking about playfulness when we arrive at this feeling of being playful. So,
Yes.
mhm.
And I did some Google searching and I found some definitions for playful, which I would like to share. I never really, to be honest, I've looked up the definition for playful until we started this emotion series. And I found the definitions interesting, to be honest. One of the ones that I found said, fond of games and amusement. Another one said light-hearted. Another one said giving or expressing pleasure and amusement. A next one I found said someone who likes to have fun and doesn't take things too seriously / not serious. And the last one I found really interesting was full of energy and a desire for fun. And I think the last one I found really interesting because I think that's more consistent with what I feel when I think of the emotion playful. I feel like I have this energy in me that's different from other emotions I feel personally.
And the last one, you want to read it one more time?
Full of energy and a desire for fun.
I like that. Yeah, I definitely would agree that there's like an energy to it, the physical part of it, which we're going to talk about.
Right. So those are some of just like the general definitions for playful, and I feel like that's an emotion that people feel and probably don't take time to acknowledge that they're feeling. That this emotion is one that I think is probably more fleeting than probably some of the other emotions, in my opinion. Anyways, maybe it's just me. Maybe other people feel playful all the time. But for me personally, I feel like it's not. It's more of a fleeting emotion for me.
Okay.
So let's think about or talk about, anyways, this like what it sounds and looks like when someone is feeling playful, or when you and I, anyways, are feeling the emotion of playfulness.
You want to start us off?
Yeah. So for me, I really note that there are only some specific times when I feel playful. I think in considering like this emotion, I feel like being an older sibling, I always had a lot more responsibility. Well, that was placed on me by my mom and family. I got a lot of comments about being in charge of taking care of my younger siblings, and like that I was the example for my younger siblings. So that never really led to a feeling of playfulness. That led to me feeling like I had to be very mindful of what I was doing. So there are only times when one of the main times when I feel this emotion is actually when I'm traveling on my own and actually away from family. Also, in general, I think because it's a different environment where people don't know me. Also, I don't know. I feel like a general sense of like, oh, freedom, and because I love learning about other cultures and love being surrounded by like other languages and different sceneries and things like that. Like it's super exciting for me when I travel, and I feel a sense of like just intense energy, kind of like what I was saying, intense energy and curiosity. And it really makes me feel like I'm more open to new experiences when I feel playful. So I'm usually excited and usually more talkative about what's going on around me when I feel playful. I'm usually
true. I totally agree with all of that.
I'm usually in a better mood. I'm usually laughing or smiling, which I don't do. Not that I don't smile and laugh when I'm not traveling or whatever, but I feel like it's like more of a set smile the whole time I'm traveling, whereas that's not my experience every day. My body usually feels more relaxed physically, and I have more of a sense of energy. Like physically, my body feels like, I mean, like when I travel, I will walk like miles and miles, and it won't faze me. Like because I'm so enthralled with everything I'm seeing or doing, you know, all the tourist type of activities, other people I'm meeting, that I'm not really even like physically, I don't feel the same level of tiredness as if I would have done that being home. Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
So those are like the non-verbals and the, you know, the physical sensations that I feel. And I think it looks like, to be honest, I'm more of an introvert, but when I am traveling, I feel like I'm more extroverted and have like that freedom to be more extroverted in some ways.
Mm, yeah. So it brings out a lot of parts of you that are more outgoing and friendly and wanting to explore.
Yeah, I guess I feel when I feel playful, I guess I associate it with I know it kind of goes into what it feels like, but for me, it also feels like a sense of liberation.
Hmm.
But what about for just what it sounds and looks like for you, Chelsea? What do you feel like?
Oh, I like that we're talking about this just because I think play is so important in terms of incorporating all of our emotions together because we tend to focus, I think, as human beings, like just for survival purposes, we tend to focus on the stronger emotions that might consume us a little bit more, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So this playful aspect is it's really nice to be just incorporating in any sense. But I let's see, for me, sounds like and looks like it's I like to travel too, and so I definitely resonate with everything you're saying. That's definitely a huge component for me. And I think something else that comes into play is when I'm around friends or when I'm, you know, I was thinking when I used to go to campus for school and I used to see people in my graduate program, I remember always feeling excitement and this sense of silliness and playfulness. And I don't know if it's just because I associate school as sort of the second home for me. And seeing all the people, you know, I haven't always had positive experiences through school, but for some reason, having that place to go to always it always brought up this sense of excitement for me. And I always remember thinking, I love the parts that it brought out in me because I felt very easygoing and playful with my peers. And I don't know, I just really enjoyed that sensations with those sensations in me and that part of my personality that it brought out.
Hmm.
Um,
That's interesting.
I know, it's really
For
interesting.
for me, school has never been associated with playfulness.
And
That's
it's not necessarily,
seriousness.
I know. It's not necessarily the school part of it. It's just I think it's the community feel that I would feel when I went there, just because I knew who I was going to see. I knew what to expect. Sometimes we'd have events, but I don't know. I guess I just felt a sense of security in it, and
Mm.
it felt really freeing for me because it kind of created this space for me where I could just be, you know? And yeah, of course, there were a lot of hard things, and I think that's just a part of any part of life. But for me,
So, oh,
yeah,
I just kind of wanted to. So, for you, playfulness, safety is involved in your emotion of playfulness, also, it sounds like.
yeah, hmm
See, and I think for me, it's the opposite. I think it's the sense of like, because I mean, when I'm traveling, there's a lot of danger, right? Or not danger, but
well,
there's
of
like
course,
a lot of risk and a lot of sense of like potential danger and like the unknown. And that for some reason for me instills my
I
playfulness
think
emotion.
I think they both go hand in hand because I agree. I feel the same way because I've traveled solo and I've gone across the country
Hmm.
and you have too. And I totally, I relate to that as well. I think going on campus and being around people who are going to challenge my point of view, that's also quite risky, right? And we don't always get along, or we don't always have the same point of view. And in our program, it's actually purposeful to nitpick your ideas. Like, that's the whole point of it's, to challenge you, make you feel uncomfortable. So I think both go hand in hand. I don't think it's just one or the other, because, you know, I've had experiences at school where they've not been the most comfortable or the most, I mean, honestly, just they haven't been great. And I think it's interesting to think that I've still been able to feel that sense of playfulness, even despite the risk I take, you know, stepping back into that vulnerability or that like exposure, I guess. I also feel, for me, from the culture that I come from and where I was raised, Afghans, at least from my experience in my family, the way that we connect and relate to one another sounds a lot like playful teasing. So, you know, kind of poking fun at someone or being really, really silly with them in that way, that's a total form of connecting and form of relating to one another that kind of takes play in conversations, which is it can be a double-edged sword, because sometimes Afghans can take it too far, or my Afghan family at least. And so it's like this delicate dance of knowing, you know, like, okay, don't take it too far kind of thing. But I feel like a lot of my playfulness comes from my roots of when I was growing up, and how my aunt and my uncle used to tease me, and just but being loving and playful in that sense. It's kind of difficult to describe. I think one way I can describe it is my nickname. So my dad has nicknames for us, and I used to have two nicknames, and then my sister was born, and he kind of separated the nicknames between us. And it's a very cultural thing to do, but like, for instance, my nickname is Poops. And it sounds really funny, like telling it to people, but it's like this form of endearment. But that's just a good example of how the playfulness sounds. You know, it's just this way of being silly, but saying it's a form of saying like I love you kind of thing. You know. So anyway.
I think kind of to share a little bit from my cultural perspective, because I was thinking about this too. So like I'm first or like 1.5 generation Mexican American, and so my mom was raised here, born here also, but my dad was born in Mexico. So when my mom, she is actually very playful, and her and my personality are actually not similar at all. She even in her sibling set, she's the middle child of four sisters. Everybody in the family knows like that my mom is like playful. We'll do jokes on people, and we'll come up with these ideas that are very funny, and we'll say funny things, and she's just a funny person. And her mindset is always like in the quickest to go to playfulness, really. So she doesn't take things as seriously, again going back to that definition, like as other people, although there is a part of her that will, you know, is for sure hardworking and does take a lot of things very seriously. But she has, I feel like, more, it's just easier for her to go into a playful space than maybe somebody like me, because I don't feel like I can go to that playful space as easily as her.
Yeah.
And I think it has to do with personality for sure, maybe star sign. But one of the things that I noted in my family when I grew up anyways, and again, I think it's because of like having been, you know, early generation anyways in this culture of the American culture, whenever I would go do something that was even like supposed to be fun, like, I don't know, go somewhere with friends, like, okay, go somewhere with friends, for example, and I'm like, we were gonna go to the mall, like nothing really high stress or anything like that. My family would actually never say have fun. They would always say be careful. And I mean, even to this to this day, to be honest. They still say be careful even if I'm going to like the grocery store. So not that they would say have fun for that, but
Hey,
similarly, like,
sometimes that can be fun.
yeah, I mean, I have fun when I go to Trader Joe's, but but they don't necessarily express that. So I think always having heard that, that never made me feel like that, like, they never invoked the emotion of playfulness, for sure. Even if it was a funny event, I had this sense of like, oh, I have to be careful, like I have to be watching out, or I have to be more considerate, or, whatever reason, like those kinds of thoughts would, yeah, caution. And caution never, I mean, for me, is caution and playfulness don't necessarily always go hand in hand. So I think that that's really important, because I feel like that probably limited my openness to playfulness, like to that emotion. And my feeling a sense of like, again, also being like an older sibling, but feeling like I had to be more in control, or like just more mindful of my behavior every time I did anything, basically.
Yeah, I feel that a lot. I think especially being socialized as a woman,
Right.
we're kind of taught more to really be hyper vigilant around what's going on and who's around, and so I can relate to that. I think it's so hard too, because we forget how much. So like, because I know our next thing we want to talk about, which you've already touched base on, the physical part of it, is we might have some of the similar sensations of these emotions, but they're for different reasons, right? They're bringing up, playfulness as opposed to maybe a strong emotion of feeling injustice, or however you're feeling. And it's interesting to know in the body how it could feel and be located in a certain area that might be similar to another emotion, but it produces different chemicals in your body. That to me is very interesting, because we're telling our body different things. We have different messages, and we have a different understanding. If your mom's saying have fun when you're leaving versus be careful,
Yeah.
you're gonna be,
And I actually called my mom out on that when I got older. I mean, like, because I lived abroad for a year, and when I came back, I don't know, just, you grow from your experiences of living on your own in a different country, for sure. But even just traveling for a weekend, I think alone, you definitely learn more about yourself. But as I got older, I realized and said, like, that's not good. Like, you shouldn't be telling me to be careful every single time. Like, how about you just add a have fun in there?
right.
So
How did she
yeah,
respond to that?
she said, well, she's like, that's implied. And I was like,
Oh,
no,
that's
it's
not
not
how it would
implied.
say, yeah. Oh man, that's hard, because I get it. It's like you want to make sure your kid is safe,
Right. Yeah, of
but
course.
come back. Well, maybe she doesn't want to, because she's like, don't have too much fun. I want you to come back.
Probably.
Oh my God.
Well, let's talk a little bit about like the physical and emotional. So I kind of mentioned, for me, I definitely feel more relaxed, usually like a lot more energy, like coursing through my body, which I don't normally feel. Unless, I've had a lot of caffeine, but it's almost like a natural high, basically, for me when I feel playful. And I think it's, again, associated with that sense of like liberation. Like, normally, and it just I think because of my personal experience of life, I've been in school like half my life, most of my life, actually. So I've always felt this like a weight. Even when I was like on breaks and stuff, there was a weight of like, I still got to do all of this stuff when I'm still working towards that. But when I travel, I feel like I can like leave that all behind, because it's like not this, yeah. So I feel like a sense of weight lifted also when I feel playful. Like, I'm not letting that kind of other stuff, I guess, impede like that emotion. That emotion is causing anyways to disconnect from those other things that I don't need to worry about in that time. And happiness. Usually I feel pretty happy.
Cool. I like that. I'm thinking, for me, I think playfulness is one experience that I can fully embody. I feel a lot of embodiment, and I think it would be irresponsible for us not to acknowledge that playfulness and sex, that's something that's really important too. Those two things can go hand in hand. Sometimes, depending on your sexual experiences as well, if there's trauma involved, or if there's, you know, depending on the colorful experience you have with that.
And the cultural messages you got around sex.
Yeah, there's such a wide variety of how that can attach to playfulness and sex. Attached to
I
each
think,
other.
yeah, I mean, I think an American perspective is that there is an association between playfulness and sex, or there should be in some ways, right?
Um, I don't know. I don't know if I could even speak to that. I'm not sure because I try not to go into the whole like what's normal or what's even common necessarily. I think everything is just so different. Everyone has their own experiences, so it's hard. Because like you said, I've had my cultural experience with, not being allowed to have a significant other, and just a lot of those limitations, which can cause someone to go on the flip side and want to be rebellious, right? So it's really interesting how these things can develop over time. But I think for me, playfulness is such an embodied experience. So when I am experiencing those physical sensations, I feel every sensation in my body. I feel I am deeply grounded in my body. I feel in control. I feel this how would you call it, like a electric pulse, like um in the alignment in front from my body, from my stomach to my chest, just this circuit of energy right there going up and down. Sometimes I can tell that I get my heart pulses more, like faster. But I just, smile on my face. I feel like I'm more in tune with my hands too. My hands are always like very playful with other people. Just in terms of, I'm not like saying I go and touch people, but just, just like, I don't know. I think I just become more aware of myself. And I think that's partly why too, I love Kundalini yoga and just yoga in general, because it gets me into a space where that could be an emotion that comes up for me. And it gets me feeling more embodied and more grounded in myself. And that's just such a yummy space to be in. It just feels so good inside. Um, I associate playfulness with my silliness, my silly part of my personality. I actually want to get a tattoo with the word silly because it's so important to me. Because there have been so many years that I've been, like you said, very much relate to that, is school has been a big part of my life. And having to incorporate moments of travel and playfulness into that, it's very difficult because you have a lot of obligation, and it's invisible obligation because no one can see it but you know what your deadlines are, you know what workload you have. So it's a very interesting experience. And I wonder what it's going to be like after we graduate when we don't have those individual, weights over us in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully we'll be able to feel more playfulness.
And travel, if that's ever a future thing we can do after everything going on.
Mm-hmm. Huh.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I have to say about my my experience of playfulness.
Yeah, I want to go have some fun playtime now. Okay, well, stay tuned. We have 2 more parts to our 4-part emotion series. We hope you are all coming and tuning in a safe and comfortable space, and that everyone is staying healthy. And yeah, we will see you, talk to you, hear you, see you, talk to you next time.
Bye.